me. I grew up in the Brethren, and testimony was always you got somebody who had been a really bad background, and they would come and they would tell you the story about how many people they killed and how many shops they had robbed and so on and so forth. And you would get 65 minutes of that and then 2.5 minutes of what the Lord has done, praise the Lord. That's not what we're doing tonight. Where we're starting tonight is 2 years ago, 2.5, nearly 3 years ago. And I've been saved, wait till I work this out, 31 years now. So 28 years saved. Something changed dramatically. I want to read the, or if you could turn to Genesis chapter 35, please. Beg your pardon, 32, Genesis 32. Father, we just really ask that you still our hearts tonight and speak to us. You know what you want to say in this place, and you know what you want us to hear. I just really pray that you take every word and weight it with eternity. And let us know the grace and the love and the mercy of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Now, early on in my Christian life, I was a bit strange, to say the least. I don't mind admitting that. I was a very strange teenager, did not get involved in most of the things that teenagers do. At 15, my grandfather died, and I made a decision at 15 that I was going to live for God. And decided school was a write-off, and I would start fresh when I went to work. So that's what I did. At 17, I went into the workplace, apprenticeship in coach building, and from that moment I lived as a Christian. If anybody asked anything about the Bible, as best as I could, I would answer it. I lived on my own for a year when my parents went abroad. When they came back, it didn't last too long, then I moved out to one flat. And the hymn that I requested that we sang first tonight has really been the desire of my heart since I was 17. I wanted to make a difference in my generation. I wanted to make a difference in Scotland in my generation. Because when I was 19, God shut the door to going abroad. I was desperate to be a missionary. But God shut that door firmly. And at 19, I studied through the book of Ezekiel. And if you're familiar at all with Ezekiel, there's a verse in there that he says to Ezekiel, I am going to make you an example to this people. And you read Ezekiel's life, and boy was he an example. And everything that I've ever had to preach on in my entire life, I've had to live. I've never plucked a sermon out of the air and spoken on it without having first lived it, because God wouldn't let me. And that has been the walk that I've tried to walk. These men like Noah and Enoch and Abraham and Moses, who were friends with God. Do you believe that it's possible to be a friend of God? Well, these men did, and they walked it. And that has been the desire in my heart. And that was the reason I wanted that first hymn. But I've got my journey. There's not enough time tonight to go into it. About 5 years ago, Fiona and I started a Bible study in our home because God put a burden in our heart for disaffected Christians, for want of a better way to put it. Those who had been saved either a short or a long time and weren't going anywhere, and central Scotland is full of them. And God put a burden in our heart for these people. And through our course of events, we started a Bible study in our home. It started round our dining room table with half a dozen of us, and over the course of a year grew to about 20. And by the end of the year, having studied through Nehemiah, having done some practical examples of outreach, they looked at us and said, so when are we starting a church and doing this properly? And it was the furthest thing from my mind to start a church. It was the last thing that I ever thought needed to do. But we prayed, and the best way I can put it is, in my experience, what God has done is you start out at the top of the funnel, and you gradually, like the sand going down through, you come until you've got no more options, and you've got one option left, and that's what He tells you to do, because that's all that's left to do. He backs us into a corner as we pray, and we say, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And He backed us into a corner like the sand's going down through, I can't even get the name of them, going down through the egg timer until there was one grain left. And that last grain was, you will be starting that church down in Baseford Community Centre, and you will be reaching those people, and you will be working with this group of people that I've given you. And from our first Sunday, Larry, I just noticed Larry at the back there. Larry got saved the week that we started. Debbie, that lives across the road, was going to be playing the music for us. And there was meant to be somebody else playing along with her. And he pulled out at the last minute. Larry got saved on the Tuesday, and on the Sunday night, he brought his guitar, and him and Debbie played the worship. And that's how God started us off. And for 2.5 years, we went through too many experiences to talk about tonight. Enough to say that I was working full-time at Alexander's and doing what we were doing with the church. We were working with people, we were working with drug addicts, we were working with lots of different people with serious, serious issues. And Fiona and I were front line because we desperately tried to God for people to stand beside us. But the people they gave were people who needed us. But not everybody, because there was a few folk in that core who started. There was maybe about half a dozen of us who were a bit more mature and who could hold the thing together. And then everybody else was needing lifted up. And when you're doing that full time, and you're working full time, and you're on the phone full time, and you're available 24 hours a day, people used to phone me at 2 in the morning, and you go on the phone for an hour with them, and it went on and on and on and on. To give you an example, there's a chap, Douglas, came around. He was an amazing guy. He had every opportunity in life that he could have had. But he turned to drugs, and long story short, he went down to Victory Outreach, came back through Victory, clean, came to us, and him and his girlfriend, and they were doing incredibly well. He was doing amazingly well, and he came to the Bible study from day one, and he was growing. And he went to the doctor after a bad weekend, and she put him on methadone, and he just stopped from that moment. 6 months later, Douglas was dead. Because at 37 years old, he had a bad weekend, he fell up with his girlfriend, went and got a bag of heroin, stuck it in his arm in the toilet of a bookies, and never come back out. There was a bad batch of heroin kicking around Falkirk at that weekend because Douglas died, another boy, Paul, died. He had a bit of help right enough. There was a few boys helped him on his way, and there was another fella that we were in contact with died. There was 3 of them that weekend because of a bad batch of heroin. I had to take Douglas's funeral, and that was a difficult day because everything that Douglas could have had, he had. He had money, he had parents that loved him, he had a girlfriend that loved him, and he had God in his heart, but it wasn't enough for him. And Douglas didn't make it, because that's the sad reality. Nobody makes it. Remember years ago, the kids used to watch the Thunderbirds film, and they loved it, the newer version. And the youngest boy, Alan, is standing there, and he's desperate because he's watching somebody struggling, and his dad shouts to him, Alan, you can't save everybody. And that's the reality. You do everything you can for people, but if sometimes it's just not enough. Now, 2.5 years ago, I had the privilege of marrying Larry and Jess. And it was one of the busiest weekends of my life. Because on the Sunday, wasn't it? On the Friday was Isaac's birthday.
Sunday.
Doesn't matter, Sunday was his birthday, but there was something happened on the Friday. We were organising Fun Day down in the park. I don't know if some of you remember that. There was 5 bands coming. There was all of the associated things that were the stalls and everything that was coming to that. The fire brigade were coming. All of your food things were coming. Fozia for the shop down in Langley, she was organising a load of folk to come, and we had 500 people there in that park, Dawson Park, on the Saturday. And with all that to organise and do their wedding that weekend, and that was when the wheels started to come off. And God was beginning to show me, even though I wasn't listening, that you're no Superman. Because I remember quite clearly saying to Fiona a few weeks before that, I reckon I'm operating about 70% just now. I reckon 70% capacity is where I'm operating just now. Working 2 jobs, doing all these things, organising the Fun Day, preaching twice a week. Because there was nobody else to do the preaching, I was doing every Sunday. And I thought I was coping. And on the face of it, I was coping. But after the Fun Day, things started to go like that, and we always went away in the tent, first week in July, and I sat down in Kirkcudbright at the fishing ponds with my fishing rod at my side. And if this bothers you, I'm not going to apologise for it. I can't be at the other side and stared at the water. I never put my line into the water, and we were there for just under a week. I just stared at the water, listening to Louis Armstrong. He helps, by the way. And then when I come home from there, I went back to work, and that's when it started to get really bad, because, see that question there, put on Facebook, it pains me that I should even have to ask that question. We'll come into that in a minute. I was standing in work, and if you know Alexander's Bus Builders, it's huge. I mean, huge. I don't even know what the square footage is. It's enormous. Imagine Tesco's with empty times 5. Huge. And I was claustrophobic. And I got an anxiety attack, a panic attack, and my boss says to me, "You alright?" I said, "No, I'm not alright." He suffers from depression as well, and he looked at me and says, "You need to go. Go. Just go." And I got in the car, and I drove up to the reservoir way up the back of Denny. And I just sat up there, and I got out of the car and I walked away up into the hills, and I sat on top of the hill. I don't even know which one it is, but it's got a kind of masty thing at the top of it. And I sat up the top of there. It was a beautiful sunny day, and I just sat there and stared across the Forth Valley. And I was saying to God, "What is wrong with me?" And I don't know your experience of God, but my experience of God is that I've been very fortunate and blessed that when I ask a question, I get an answer. And I says to him, "What's wrong with me?" And the answer came back as clear as day: "You're clinically depressed." And I'd been on antidepressants before, and it didn't work. I was like a zombie. It just didn't work. I went to the doctor, and she prescribed these drugs, and these ones didn't work either. I was on number 3 before I got one that actually settled down, but I slept for a 1 week solid, just slept. And when I was describing this to my counsellor the other week, she said, "I'm not surprised." Just out. Now, me being me, after, that was August, we wound everything up with Hope Church in October. A very good friend of mine He says to me, you need to take stock of where you are. And we sat in the swing park in Kirkcaldy, him and I, and I'm exploding in tears, sobbing, and he says, you need to take stock. What is the one thing that would make it better? He says, if I didn't have to do it on Sunday. He says, well, draw a line. And that Sunday was the last one. We met together as Hope Church in Baysford. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my whole life, was saying the end. Right at the very beginning, Fiona spoke to God and asked Him for something to hang on to. And He gave her this verse that we're going to read together. Genesis 32 and 22. During the night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 servant wives, his 11 sons, and crossed the Jabbok River with them. After taking them to the other side, he sent over all his possessions. This left Jacob all alone in the camp, and a man came and wrestled with him until the dawn began to break. When the man saw that he would not win the match, he touched Jacob's hip and wrenched out its socket. And the man said, let me go, for the dawn is breaking. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. What's your name? The man asked. He replied, Jacob. Now, sorry, I should have said I've been for the New Living, in case it's a bit different from what you've got in front of you. I will not let you go unless you bless me. What's your name? The man asked. He replied, Jacob. Your name will no longer be Jacob, the man told him. From now on, you will be called Israel, because you have fought with God and with men and have won. What God impressed upon Fiona's heart at that time was, this is something that you will walk through. This is not something that you will be healed from, or I will be healed from. Now, we had seen people healed. In case you're wondering where I stand on this, we prayed for people in our front room during our Bible study times and saw people healed. A woman with chronic pain, couldn't even hardly walk at times. God put it on her hearts one night to pray for her, and she got up out of that room and she's never looked back. She was healed there in our front room. I believe in healing. But not all the time. Because that verse that God gave to Fiona, He also gave to me. That I will come out of this illness and come out the other side with a different walk. Jacob limped for the rest of his life. Something was broken, if you like, in his hip that never got fixed. And for the rest of his life, he had a stick to walk with. When he went and met Pharaoh, he had his stick. He never ever got healed of that. And for all time, the Jews don't eat that bit of the sinew to remember that Jacob was never healed. Paul in 1 Corinthians, he says, I cried out to God 3 times to take this thing away from me, this messenger of Satan. And God said no. This was a man who folk were bringing him tissues. You pray for that tissue, Paul, we'll take it away and touch the sick folk and they'll be healed. And God says, God's saying to Paul, heal me of this thing, whatever it might be. And God said, no. You will walk with that. Now that's hard for us to take as people, because we look at the Old Testament, and I've heard them all quoted. I've been in Pentecostal churches, and I've seen it happen, and I've been there and loved it and walked it. If you do this, this, and this, God will do this, this, and this. And He does sometimes, we've witnessed it. But God is not one size fits all. friend who suffers from manic depression, and I really prayed for him, prayed a lot for him. Why could you not just heal him? And the answer I got was, he needs the discipline of taking that medication every single day of his life, because his mind is undisciplined, and if he doesn't take that medication, his mind will run to places of complete undiscipline. And I've seen it. I've seen him off his medication and off the scale. We don't know what God's doing, and we cannot say, because that worked for them, this will work for them. And I'm giving you my experience tonight, and yours will be different. After that first bout, particularly bad one, on the pills, everything settled down. She gave me beta blockers for my anxiety, my panic attacks, and by Christmas all of that had subsided. And after Christmas, I felt the medication was just holding me back. I started to I wanted to process, I wanted to understand, I wanted to get to grips with what had happened with Hope Church. What was it all about? It was too raw, it was a great big open sore, and I wanted it sorted. And I started to write. Everybody deals with things differently. I started to write, and I started to work through it from the beginning and write everything that I could remember. So, I made a decision that I would come off my tablets. And over Christmas I gradually reduced them, and by January I was right off them, and I never told anybody. And at the end of January I says to Fiona, how do you think I'm doing? And she says, I think you're doing really well. I was much more at it, I was much more engaged, I was much more involved, I was much more lucid. And I told her I was off the tablets and everything was going great. And for nearly a year, I maintained that level of alright. It was alright. I should say that I hadn't been in church since the day that I stopped and made that decision in Kirkcaldy in the swing park. I had not set foot in a church. I went to the Baptist church, I should say, one night to a concert, and I hated it. Hated it. I couldn't wait to get out. And then, for continuity, Fiona was taking the kids to Struthers, and it's a great church for them. It was ideal, and I started going about the Easter and kind of half eased my way back in with Christians, because I didn't even want to see Christians. I don't want you to be offended by this tonight. This is my experience, and I didn't even want to talk to Christians. I was abrupt, I was brusque, I was harsh and rude. I didn't want to speak to anybody, far less Christians. And I was far too rude for the folk in Struthers. It's a very gentle church. And I was far too harsh for them. And I said some things perhaps that were unkind and unwise, and I stopped going, and we made the decision as a family to go through to Edinburgh, to go to Carruthers, because it was a much more, how can I put this, robust church. I've known Wayne Sutton for many years, and he has come through some serious illnesses as well, so he got it straight away. When I walked up to that door that first Sunday, he knew exactly what was going on. I didn't even need to explain it. And I just said, in come. And we had there, and the teaching was amazing, and we loved it. But the drive was just horrendous, couldn't cope with it. At the turn of the year, last year, everything started to change again. And I had a dream, and it was a bizarre dream. I was driving in the car with the kids. Fiona was there, she was at work, and it was again a beautiful day. And we were driving along this dual carriageway, and I was doing about 75, 85, and and we were going round this big sweeping curve. and we came into a cove, and then we went up over a steep hill. And you know, at the summer, we ended up at Weymouth Beach. And that's where I dreamt about in January. Well, it was a dual carriageway sweep through the town, which would be a great improvement, in my opinion. Especially that row in the background there, just flatten all that. Because we were scooting on through the town, and then you come out through the other side of there, and if you know that area, you come up a big hill, and you go up over, and it's back into the residential area. And this was on Madreen. There's no houses in Madreen, but in reality it's a residential area. Then you take a left and you go down the hill and you come to Chesil Beach. Never been to these places in my life before. And when we got there at the summer, it was all just so familiar. But the thing was, when we got to this point in Madreen, the road kind of, well, let's just leave that for a second. Because it describes what happened next in my life. And I know there's certain people in here who really, really appreciate this, but let's just see how this works. That's what happened in my dream. And I looked around and I says to the kids, I'm sorry. I want you to understand something. For the next 6 months, where you are is where I was. And where I am is where everybody else was. Life for everybody else was going on in the sun. But for me, I was out there. And this darkness that descended, it was just palpable. And I could see people smiling, I could see people laughing, and I could see people living their lives, and I could see people at my work doing what they do. Nothing's changed for them. Everything was just normal for them. But for me, it was dark. And everybody else, as far as I was concerned, was living in the sunshine. And I couldn't even reach the sunshine. I couldn't find a way to get to it. I knew it was there, but I couldn't get to it. I'm living with 3 people in a house, and they're living their life as normal as they can do living with me. I want you to understand today what it's like for somebody who descends that quickly. If you've never experienced it, the lights back, please. I've read a lot of junk in the last year and a half. Everybody gets depressed. No, they don't. Everybody gets low. There's a massive difference between clinical depression and a low mood. Huge difference. And if I hadn't had that experience up in the hills that day, where I knew that I was clinically depressed, I would have listened to all the folks saying, "Dear Sula Sheikh." I would have listened to all the people saying, "Just read your way out of it, pray your way out of it," whatever it is that people say. I want you to understand tonight, if you're not ever experienced this, I want you to be able to help people in a way that you've never understood before. So what is clinical depression? Is it a spiritual failure? No. It's not a spiritual failure. From my experience, I was at the peak of my spiritual game. I was pastor in the church. People were getting saved, we were getting baptised, people's lives were changing. I was at the peak of my spiritual game. That sounds awful, but that's the way I want to put it. And it just hit. And like that carrying off that cliff, that is how fast it went down. With no ground under you, with nowhere to stand, with nowhere that you can look to, turn to for help, because it just keeps going down and down and down and down and down until you get hit. And when you hit, boys are. For the first 4 months of this year, the only thing that I thought about every moment of every day that I was awake was how not to be alive. You might think, well, where's your faith? That was it. And it got to the point that I went to the doctor after my wife, who has been the most amazing person ever, convinced me I needed to go back and speak to the doctor. And sitting in the doctor's office, she's an amazing woman. And she says to me, see if you come in here with angina. And I says to you, there's a wee prescription, you take one of them every day, and your symptoms will just stabilise. Would you do it? Well, without question. She says, why have you got such an objection to taking this prescription? I'll tell you why, because I believe the lies of the church. I believe the lies of people who say, here, sell a shake. Because it is a lie. Because if you are actually clinically depressed, you can't give yourself a shake. A week after that conversation with my friend in Kirkcaldy, God didn't stop speaking to me. And it was just constant. And you know what I said? And it is something I'll live to be ashamed of for my whole life. I told him to go away and leave me alone. So just shut up.